Hello everyone, don't need these. I'm back. Let's see, so a couple of orders of business. I tried this video, I should have put my hair back. Tried this video a couple of days ago or yesterday or something, and the audio was all borked up, so if you tried to watch it, I think some of you did, my apologies. I didn't even take the video down. I had other things to do, so I just walked away from it. So this is the same topic, just trying it. Hopefully the audio will work correctly. I need to do something about this computer. It's really starting to bug me. So that's that. Again, apologies. Other news, my book is up. The book title is It Was 100 Days. Subtitle, An End of Civilization novel. It's on Amazon. So I'm indie publishing this. I don't have a publisher. I don't have a publicist. Don't have an editor. It's just me. It's all me. So there you go. You get what you get. It's currently available as an ebook. You don't have to have a Kindle, an Amazon Kindle, to read ebooks. You can read ebooks on your computer or your cell phone, even with an ebook reader. The readers are generally free. I think they're still from Amazon, but they're free. But you do have to buy the book. You can preview the book. So I think you get actually you get the opening pages, credits, and things like that, and then you get, I think, the first chapter, the foreword, and maybe day zero, which is before the action. So there's something you could read if you want to, with the preview, and it's available also on paperback for purchase. I think the price is $12.99. This is what we call printing on demand. So there isn't actually a book on the shelf someplace. Amazon just prints the book, and then they send it to you, book rate or Amazon Prime or whatever works for you. So there's supposed to be a hardback version too, but for some reason, even though they've approved it, they're having trouble showing it on their website. I don't know what that's about. So I'm going to bang on that a little bit until there's a hardcover. I think the hardcover is $23.99 or something like that. So and again, all these come with previews. It's the same content, so it doesn't really matter. If you want to support my work here, you can, of course, buy the book. Or if you don't want to spend that much money, there's a link in the description to buy me a coffee. So you can always do that. $5 or something, right? Also, you can subscribe to the channel and like the video. That always helps. And that's all I want to say about the book right now. I'm thinking about doing an audiobook. I'll need to set up a studio for audio because it's real sensitive to background noise. We have a lot of that around here. So when I get that worked out, there'll be an audiobook. It'll be on Audible, which is also an Amazon property. If you have problems with Amazon, I understand, but that's my few options. But the audiobook will also be up on Libby if I can figure out how to do that. Libby is an audiobook service for libraries, hence the name Libby. I've used some of their audiobooks. They work really well. I recommend it for audiobooks, Libby, and it's free. If you have a library, if you have a library card, basically what like they used to call it at the library, then you are automatically signed up for Libby. And when I have an audiobook and it's posted and it's verified, I'll make a mention here. So if you wanted to wait and get it for free, then you can wait until it's available as an audiobook on Libby. So that's that. Would I put it on YouTube as an audiobook? I might, right? I mean, once I have an audio file, I could put it up on here. And since I'm putting it up on Libby, there's no, I'm not going to worry too much about the fact that it's free on YouTube. Support your local artist, right? Buy the ebook, buy the paperback. You'll be doing me a big solid. And, to be honest, I want to get the word out that there is a book. I don't think there's another book out there like this one. Because I don't hear anybody out there making noise about this existential problem the way I make noise about it. So buy the book, read it, give it to a friend, have them read it, pass it around. Let's hope that works out for somebody down the road who maybe didn't really have idea what was happening to them. So that's that. This video, though, is not about my book, even though it kind of is. I mean, these videos are what stimulated me to write the book, right? So the videos are in the book, pretty much. There's nothing in the book that wasn't also in the videos. So that's the relationship to that. But today's video is about Europe. I was actually going to I was going to say something about that there's a massive record-breaking cooling surge coming to the central and the eastern U.S. They're talking about record low temperatures, and I wanted to mention that, one, because it's in the news. People are going to get confused, and two, it seems like it's counter to this entire message of global heating, but it's not. The record cold that's coming like any day now. What is today? The day is August 5th. Any day now, that's going to land. It's all related to global heating. So I wanted to do a video about that, but I want to talk about Europe first because this is the video that got borked because of my bad relationship with my computer. So the Europeans, they're having a massive heat wave, and it extends really all around the Mediterranean. So the European states that are part of the Mediterranean region would be Spain, south of France, Italy, Greece, Turkey, and I don't think we consider Syria part of Europe, but Syria is also having heat waves and fires, and the heat waves and the fires, of course, go together, as you would expect. Very often there are extremely high winds associated with these fires, and that's probably why they're in the news, right? A little fire that catches in someone's backyard and doesn't go anywhere isn't going to make the news. But when you've got fires that are raging through villages and everyone's evacuating and the animals are on fire and dying, and that makes the news, right? And that's generally associated with high winds. Well, the Europeans understand all this. They're not in denial. I mean, they are in denial. The Europeans are in a weird kind of denial. Their denial is what I call soft denial. They are prepared to recognize in an intellectual way that global heating is real, that is caused by humans, it's caused by burning fossil fuels, that we must make changes, but they're still saying goofy things. So they're in soft denial. They've taken the one step of recognizing that it's real and not a hoax. But they're not taking the next step, which is saying, well, since it's real and since it's trying to destroy us, this is what we have to do. Very, very vague reassurances coming out of Europe and the UK about what they're going to do. But I'm going to give them full credit that they understand that they're finished. And I'm saying that they're finished. That's by no means hyperbole. That is not overstating it. That is not being melodramatic. They're finished. They're done. Europe is done. And they may not be done this year or next year, but sometime in the next few years, right? A few. So a few is, I think, by definition, 3, maybe up to 5. Soon, very soon, they're going to be done. They're going to be done as sovereign states, as economic powers, as participants in the global stage. They're just going to be done. And the reason is because global heating is going to shut them down. Global heating is going to end the European experience. Economically, socially, culturally, and the way it's going to end is it's complicated, which is why it's really difficult to talk about it or to make policy or to do anything else that might save you, because they can't save themselves from this. They are heating faster than the U.S. And the U.S. has had a lot of heat, but they're heating even faster than the U.S. Why is that? I don't even know. I haven't studied it, haven't looked at it. I haven't heard anyone talk about it. The Mediterranean Ocean is right there at the south of Europe. And I just mentioned Spain, south of France, Italy, Greece. They're all, bellied up to the Mediterranean Ocean. And the Mediterranean Ocean is really, really hot. It's an enclosed body of water. There's only communication with the Atlantic Ocean on the west side, and it's a very narrow area, off of Gibraltar, where water can transfer in and out, and the Mediterranean Ocean just gets hotter and hotter and hotter every year. And because it's hot, it can exchange heat day and night fall, all 4 seasons, winter, spring, summer, fall, it can exchange heat into the atmosphere. So it keeps the Mediterranean being hot, keeps the atmosphere hot and wet. And those two things combined make for what we call heat index, or feels like temperatures that are verging on lethal. And the UK, I think this is now old news, but it's still interesting. About 4 or 5 years ago, the UK came out with a report that said that the UK will be experiencing 40 degrees C temperatures. And like, for them, this is unheard of, right? They're in the middle of the North Atlantic. They're surrounded by water, cold water. For them to be 40 degrees C it's like, well, that's science fiction. And they had a report said they're not in denial. Europe, the UK, they're not in denial. So they had a report, an internal government report that said, yeah, we expect to see 40 degrees C temperatures, by 2040, I think was the date. The next year, like the year after the report was published, maybe even less than a year, 6 months after the report was published, they hit 40 degrees C in the UK. And this is how this is going. This is soft denial. The UK is cooked. Literally and figuratively. They are cooked. France is cooked. Spain, Portugal, they're cooked. They're done. They're just done. Stick a fork in it. They're done. And everything is happening sooner than expected. Everything is happening over a wider area than expected. Everything is coming from the wrong direction. Some of the heat that's affecting Europe actually isn't even generated in Europe. It's generated in North Africa. But again, because of changes in the wind patterns and the Earth dynamic system and everything being disrupted and the subtropical jet stream pushing north and dragging hot air behind it, because of all these things happening in the Earth system that no one really thought about and no one really talks about and no one studies and no one reports on because it's too complicated and you can't get a grant and it's going to be bad news anyway, so why even bother? All this stuff happening with the Earth dynamic system is bringing hot air from North Africa into Europe, and they're cooking. Oh, you wouldn't want to be in North Africa right now. That's called the Sahara Desert. That's what that's called. Tunisia, Algeria, Libya, Morocco, Egypt. You don't vacation in these places. Nobody vacations in these places because this is North Africa. It is the desert. It is the Sahara Desert. And it's a desert for a reason, because it's hot. And no one goes there except on business. But it didn't save them to not go there on business. Now the heat has risen north into Europe. And now they have temperatures that would normally be found exclusively in the Sahara Desert making their way into Europe, crossing the Mediterranean Ocean on the way. And when the heat doesn't come from North Africa, the Mediterranean Ocean itself is so hot that it can just generate heat locally, in situ, in their backyard. Europe is cooked. And they're not in denial about being cooked. If you go to the UK stations and you listen to the weather reports or the documentaries, or you go to BBC and you listen, and they'll say, yeah, we're in deep trouble. This is not good. We're not going to be able to grow food. We're not going to be able to have electric power plants. We're not going to be able to have nuclear power plants. It's just going to be too hot for these things. All these things, it's just going to be too hot. And our old houses that were made 300 years ago, 400 years ago, they don't have insulation. They're just solid stone, and there's no, and we don't have enough rural electricity to put air conditioning in all these places, and so on and so forth. They're quite willing to admit that they're cooked, that they're done, that there's just no way out. But when it comes down to policy, of course, they shilly-shally and they don't say the thing. And what is the thing that they have to do? Well, the Europeans, right, source of the world's financial institutions, source of the EU, was the third largest economy in the world, or something like that. Big, huge consumer, landscape in Europe, buying all these resources from China and Russia and U.S. and every place else. They have some power. I mean, remember, the Paris Climate Accords came out of Paris. So it's not like it's not like they don't have some throw. It's not like they don't have some chutzpah, some willingness to tackle this. But they just don't. They don't. They won't, because they can't. They can't. They can't do it. For one thing, I'll be fair, they can't do it themselves. Now, they could provide leadership and get the rest of the world to do it, except Russia, China, and the U.S., of course, wouldn't, because that bloc, that totalitarian bloc, is out to rule the world, and they need fossil fuels to do that. But the Europeans, who have had enough world wars to be done with that now, they could lead the world. They could say, look, this is what we're doing. We're getting off of fossil fuels. We're going to rejigger our economies. We're going to get people to live differently, and we're going to make sure that we can take care of the people without fossil fuels. And when people need something that requires fossil fuels, we'll provide it some other way. And that's going to be hard, and that's going to be virtually impossible. But they could go first. And, hey, they're surrounded by all these other countries that are not doing that. So they'd have a buffer, at least, if they were to go first. But they're not going to. They're not going to. Because nobody in politics, economics, can stop burning fossil fuels. They can't. They can't bring themselves to do it. They just can't do it. They can't. You say, well, they could. No, they can't. They can't do it. I've been saying that on this channel all along. They can't do it. They can't do it. Okay, so what's stopping them from doing it? Death? That's what's stopping them. If they stop burning fossil fuels, then they won't have fossil fuels to fight the fires. They won't have fossil fuels to air condition the buildings. They won't have fossil fuels to rebuild after a fire or after anything else. They won't have fossil fuels to move food around. So if there's a drought someplace in Europe, they wouldn't be able to move food into that place from outside. The UK, which I think only provides like 40% of their own food, without fossil fuels, they wouldn't be able to get food to the UK. They're an island. So that requires ships, and the ships require fuel, and the fuel comes from fossil fuels. So unless they were to make a fleet of nuclear-powered cargo ships or sailing ships, come on, guys, use your imagination, right? Unless they were to do something like that, they can't get food into their country. Okay, they could bring food in from France through the channel, the underground tunnel, underwater tunnel, right? The channel tunnel. They could bring it in, okay. And that's trucks. But those are fossil fuels. Do we have electric trucks in Europe and the UK that can shuttle food back and forth from France? No. So, without fossil fuels, they can't feed themselves. Period. That's it. They would die. And one premise of my book, I guess you could even say it's the primary premise of my book, is that the way the world ends is exactly because there is a tiny, short, abbreviated interruption in the availability of fossil fuels. And that's it. That's it. You're done. As soon as that happens, and everyone panics, which everyone would, because everyone is so keyed up right now, as soon as that happens, and either the price becomes unaffordable or the availability deteriorates or whatever the panic causes, then they're done. They're done. They can't feed themselves. That's it. They're done. They know that. They know that. So they're in soft denial. They understand the science. They accept the outcomes that the heat is caused by global heating, and the droughts are caused by global heating, and the fires are caused by global heating, and the winds are caused by global heating, and it's all caused by global heating, and it's not caused by the Chinese, and it's not caused by HARP, and it's not caused by sunspots, and it's not caused by cosmic rays, and it's not caused by Jewish space lasers. It's caused by global heating. They're not in denial, but they can't do anything about it. So they won't. There you go. They won't. They can't. Well, that's not very uplifting. Sorry. I'm really sorry. No, sorry, not sorry. I'm not sorry. I'm sorry. I'm being sarcastic. Sorry? No, I'm not sorry. I'm savage. I'm telling you how it is. This is how it is, folks. The UK produces 40% of their own food. Without fossil fuels, they starve to death. Data. Fucking data. That's it. Data. They can't do it. global heating is going to destroy them. And they can't save themselves from global heating. And even if they tried, and they tried to lead the world out of addiction to crude oil, then they would die because they survive on crude oil. They're done. They get to go first. They get to go first. Russia probably gets to go second. I'd say Africa third. Maybe it would be probably a toss-up between the entire continent of Africa and China going third. And then somewhere down the line, we can count on the United States being pulled in. The United States has a lot of agriculture, but it's all fossil fueled. We have a lot of fossil fuels, but it's all privately held. So our fossil fuel producers have the first privilege, to go ahead and sell to the highest markets, for the highest profit. And who's going to be paying premium for every barrel of crude oil they can lay their hands on? Well, it's going to be the Europeans, the English, right? Probably the Chinese, right? Okay. The rest of Asia, right behind the Chinese, they're going to be paying $200 a barrel, $400 a barrel, $500 a barrel, just so they don't go completely underwater. And that's how it's going to be. I got a question here. What is this? I'm not going to answer that. So Finding Gnosis has a question. Hopefully we can have a chat on my channel at some point. And maybe, not opposed to it. How to access me, I don't know. We'll find a way to talk. So Europe, because they're the most upfront about their problem, because Europe has a long history, a long relationship with science. The Europeans created the Renaissance. Back in the 1400s, 1500s, it was the Europeans who dragged themselves out of monarchy and backwardism and into a intellectual renaissance, and they got credit for that. And who led the Renaissance? The French, the Italians, the English, the Germans, the Russians. Okay, they got behind this idea of, we're not going to bend the knee to God. We're not going to bend the knee to superstition. We're going to embrace intellectualism. We're going to embrace frank discussion of how the world works, how the human mind works, what's important about freedom, what's important about these things. And of course, a few years later, we got, 1776, we had the American Revolution against the English, and then the French Revolution, 1798, deposed the monarchy. So, it eventually bore fruit. But here in America, we've never had a relationship with science or intellectualism or anything of the kind. America, the people in America, came to America, except for the Native Americans. Okay, and I'm part Native American, so I can speak to this. The Native Americans didn't need a Renaissance. They had it all figured out. They were invaded by the Europeans, who were fleeing oppression. The colonialists came to America fleeing the monarchy. The Irish came to America later, fleeing the oppression by the English. The people who came to America were fleeing oppression. And then, of course, they promptly oppressed the Native Americans, genocided those folks who maybe they should have been paying more attention to, because those guys kind of had it figured out. But no, let's not do that. So we genocided those people, made our own new oppression, started over with oppression, and never bought into the Renaissance. Never bought into fairness and equity and getting rid of the monarchy and getting rid of the will to power. We immediately embraced, because these were all economic refugees coming from Europe and England. We immediately embraced profit and capitalism and raping and pillaging the land and stripping resources and sending them back to the old country and making money and enslaving people, having slaves, bringing slaves over from Africa. It was all completely head up your butt about profit. Profit over all else, never do anything else, only make money. If you're not making money, then you're a nobody and you can, go live down by the river under a bridge. So that's how we did it in America. And America has never, to this day, had a working relationship with intellectualism, with science and technology, with a fair approach to freedom, liberty. We've had slaves. We mistreat the black people. We mistreated the Native Americans. We never had a working relationship with anything that we claim to, unless it's only applied to white men. And you can see that still at work to this very day. We oppress women. We oppress people of color. We oppress anybody who's not a white male can be oppressed. I'm a white male. I'm the victor here, right? I'm reaping the profits from all this. But I recognize it. I recognize what's happening. Yeah, I did well. And so part of the payback is I'm on here warning you people about global heating and climate change, because that was part of what America created, was global heating. We kind of invented global heating. We sort of invented the whole automobile, crude oil, airline industry, post-war consumerism, propaganda, corporate propaganda. We invented all that stuff. And we exported corporate propaganda and corporatism and consumerism to other countries. And so they followed along and everyone loved it. And it was McDonald's in Africa, right? And, Facebook now later and everything else. So we are kind of responsible for all this. And part of the reason why we are responsible for that is because we never had a working relationship with science. The Europeans did. They invented science. Again, the French, the English, the Germans, the Italians, the Russians. They did. They invented science and technology. Russians perfected rocket flight. I mean, we owe a lot to Europe and Russia. I count Russia separately because they're sort of way to the east. They claim to be European. I would allow that to happen. I would allow Russia to be part of Europe. It's too bad they've got Vladimir Putin and a bunch of other fuckwits over there, acting like robber barons. But maybe eventually Russia will get over their kleptocratic tendencies and they'll join Europe. That'd be nice, right? That would really be swell. So let's just give them that credit right now. The Russians are Europeans. They participated in the Renaissance. They had some hiccups along the way, like, the Russian Revolution. But let's allow the Russians to be European. And so, we owe a lot to the Russians and the Europeans and the English and other places besides. But even those other places became famous through European universities and European culture and European publications and you could be a Venezuelan and yet become a significant player in science or technology or medicine because you went to a European university. We owe them a lot, and they have a working relationship with science. They do. They invented it. They invented science. They have a working relationship with it. And here in the U.S., we have an antagonistic relationship with it. So the Europeans are admitting that they are basically done. They're done for. It's just a matter of time now. They are in the grips of disaster. And they will say that. And they're quite frank about it. And the English will tell you, our prospects are not good. We thought we had 20 years before we would cross 40 degrees C, and we crossed 40 degrees C basically the next week. After saying we had 20 years, we crossed it the next week, essentially. They know. And they're suffering. And they're done. They're not going to survive this. Now, I don't wish that on anybody. I am not gaining any pleasure or schadenfreude watching the Europeans go down in flames. I'm not a typical American. I recognize our relationship with Europe. I recognize that Europe, starting with Greece and really kind of sort of Rome, as the birthplace of Western civilization. I recognize that. I recognize they invented science. I recognize they created the Renaissance. They brought intellectualism into the fore. America is still a benighted, mostly Christian country that denies evolution. We haven't done anything. We're not helping anybody. We're not contributing anything except sorrow and lies and hoaxes. And can they turn the corner? Can they get us all out of global heating? No, they can't. They can't save themselves either. They can't do it. I wish there was a way for the Europeans to save themselves from global heating, but there isn't. They have open borders within the EU, at least. They have open borders. And one of the first things that's going to happen is that people are going to start fleeing countries, in particular the ones that have a shoreline with the Mediterranean Ocean. They're going to start fleeing these countries and heading into other European countries, taking their money with them, right? Their businesses, their educational degrees, all these things. But it's still going to be a flow of refugees. And pretty soon, these European countries are going to say, hey, we can't have all these people here. Wait, why are there already so many Greeks? Where did all these Italians come from? Why do we have a little Italy every other block? Don't Italians belong in Italy? Yeah, but it all burned. And Greece, same story, it all burned. And the south of France will dump into the north of France. And where are those people going to go? I don't know. And where are the Spanish going to go? Where are the Spanish going to go? Who's going to take the Spanish on? Because their country is going to become unlivable. They had a massive power outage. What was it? 6 months ago or something? They had a massive power outage. And they blamed, normally the Spanish are attached to the French grid and also I think the Portuguese grid. Well, Spain had a massive power outage and there was all kinds of excuses, and I heard the excuses like, are you kidding me? What was it? Atmospheric resonance. Something with the atmosphere, an electrical, what conductance? Capacitance, something with the atmosphere, and the long transmission wires were resonating, and it's like, what? What are you going on about? What? Well, their grid went down. So I guess we'll never know what happened there, or they'll tell us, ooh, it was atmospheric resonance. Haha. And I don't think so. Why did their grid go down? Probably too much demand. It was hot. It's like it's hot right now. Like it's on fire right now. And so everyone got home, turned on their air conditioning, and the grid went down. That's totally going to happen everywhere. As things get hotter, everyone's going to install air conditioning. All over the UK, they don't have air conditioning right now. They bitch and complain about it. We have these old houses that were built in the 1850s. They don't have air conditioning. They barely have electricity, right? So they're going to have to upgrade the electrical supply. The electric drop is going to have to be updated from whatever, probably they have 20 amps, probably what they installed in 1850, 20 amps. And, then they need to have, well, not 1850 because there was no electricity, but let's say it was 1920. They installed 20 amps or 50 amps. Now, because they have AC or they want to have AC, then they're going to have to upgrade their service from 50 amps to 100 amps. All over the country. Everywhere. Hundreds of thousands of consumers are going to have to upgrade their service from whatever paltry 40, 50 amps they had installed in 1920 to, 100 amps. Or like I have here at my house. Yeah, 100 amps. I got a 100 amp drop here. That's pretty unusual for this neighborhood. My home used to be a bar. So they had all kinds of compressors and heaters and fans and all this other stuff going on. Ice boxes for the beers and everything else. So they had a 100 amp service. And so I inherited that when I bought this box. Still a box. But back in 1930 when this place was probably built, houses didn't have 100 amp drops. Goodness, no. You didn't even have any appliances back there. They barely had automatic laundry, washing machines, right? And you still put your clothes out on a clothesline. And so they barely had appliances. And so who was installing 100 amps? Well, somebody here did, a commercial, parcel. And so I've got 100 amps. Of course, now I've also got solar, so who cares about 100 amps? But in any case, in UK, they don't even have 50, probably. And so they're going to have to go all over the country. And who's going to pay for that? Who's going to run all the wires out? These are country homes. They're villas. They've been there, like I said, since 1850. And they're going to have to run all these wires out and put big transformers up on the poles and maybe bury the wire, right? While we're at it, just bury the wire, get it out of the poles, get it out of the way. Or run it out there and they have to rewire the house. And that's going to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars and tear the walls down and put the walls back and la-dee-da just to install air conditioning, right? Are they going to do that? Well, the wealthy will do that. Somebody will do that. Will everybody do that? No. No. No, no. No. And even if some people do that, and they also do that in Paris, and they also do that in the old parts of Germany, right? These are old places. People live in medieval houses, half timbers and wattle and daub, and they love their home. And of course, it's really hot in the summer, it's really cold in the winter. But they tough German, Belgian stock, whatever they are, and Dutch, and they just throw on a coat and they put on their insulated underwear and they throw more wood on the fire and they do all these things and they're proud and they're tough and they're strong and then global heating comes along. And you can be proud and tough and strong and put on thermal underwear, but that's not going to save you from the heat. So there you go. You can layer up in the winter. You can't layer down in the summer. What are they going to do? They're in trouble. I think they're done. And they think they're done. Because they can't deny the science. No, they can deny the policy. They can say, well, we don't have money for this. We must have fossil fuels, and we can't do that and the other thing. And policy is so hard to write, and EU has to write policy together, and it's can't do it. And we have really powerful corporations, and Facebook won't allow it, and nuclear power plants everywhere, and so they're stalling on the follow through, but they accept the science. And when they accept the science, they say, I guess we're cooked. I guess we're in big trouble. Wow. Okay. That's where they're at. That's where they should be. Because it's true. Because of science. Because of data. It's true. They're cooked. And if Europe really is the third largest or second largest or whatever it is, economy in the world, might be the third. The European Union, right? They might be the third largest economy in the world. What happens when they go belly up? When they have so many refugees and the shelves are empty because of food supply issues, and it's hot and people are dying, and now the morgues are full, and now the temporary morgues are full, and there's people everywhere in the streets, dead, corpses. I'm sorry, this is, you don't want to hear all this, right? But yeah, you have to hear all this. Oh, and by the way, I wrote the book, and you think I go savage in the book? Yeah, I do. Because why would I not? Everybody dies. Because of science. And not because I say so. Because of science. And in the book, I talk about how that happens. This is how all the people died. And they died this way, and they died that way, and they couldn't escape, and they couldn't unencumber themselves, and they couldn't work together, and they thought they were going to save themselves. They thought they were going to drive and fly and go somewhere, and they just died. Because none of that was going to work. It's not going to work, people. Europe can't save themselves. They can't drive somewhere. They can't fly somewhere. They can't buy an electric car. They can't buy solar panels. None of that's going to save them from the thing, which is heat. It's heat. It's physics. It's not a different lifestyle. It's not buying differently. It's not consuming differently. It's the heat. You'll have to consume more. You'll have to consume an air conditioning system, and then you'll have to consume more electricity, and then you'll have to consume having your entire house electric probably upgraded, and then you have to consume being stuck in the house for a week at a time, and then you're going to have to consume having food deliveries, and who's going to be doing that, and who even wants to be out in the heat delivering your food to your house for you? Wow, this is going to hurt. This is going to be a big problem, folks. This is going to be a big fucking savage problem. And not because I say so. Because of physics. It's here. And the Europeans know it. Because they have a working relationship with science and facts. Okay? They may not like it. And they don't know what to do about it. But they will tell you that they're in trouble. They will tell you that they are in trouble. Because they have a working relationship with reality. Here in the U.S., we do not. The Trump administration, it's not even worth talking about. It's such a clown act, right? It really is a clown act. Rome, the Empire of Rome. What are we talking? 1470, right? Not 1470. I'm sorry. The year 470. See, I can't even say it right. So long ago. The year 470, the Empire of Rome was a clown act. Their last 3 emperors were mad. They were insane. Completely unhinged. Caligula, he went to war with the sea. He had his soldiers wade out into the ocean and hack at the sea with swords. I mean, absolute barking madness in the last 3 or 4 emperors of the Imperial Rome. And then Rome vanished. It imploded. It was just gone. It was like nothing. There was nothing left. All that was left was the people. And the government was gone. And it was raided by the Goths or the Visigoths or whoever it was that did it. And the Vandals, which to this day, right, Vandal, we all know what a Vandal is. Well, they sacked Rome. So, the Roman Empire imploded, abandoned England and Britannia, as they called it, Londinium, abandoned all their territories and imploded back in on themselves, and the last few emperors were clinically insane. The emperors in the U.S. are now clinically insane, and I might even include Obama in some of that. I mean, I like the guy, but he was not plugged in. He was not plugged in. You could easily say that he didn't have, a background in the sciences, and that would be true. He didn't have a background in any technology, which would also be true. But I keep hearing a sound. I'm not sure why I'm hearing a sound. So to some extent, I like the guy, and I voted for the guy, and I like some of his policies. He just wasn't up to this. He wasn't up to this. So as president, he was not what we needed at the time. I think probably the last person who could have comprehended our current problem and maybe even had the intellectual throw to grapple with it would have been Jimmy Carter. And Jimmy Carter, people give him a hard time, and but he was an engineer. Fact. And you could have spoken to him about physics if you wanted to. Not that anybody let that happen. Not that he was really in a mode to do that. But he had the background. He had the education. You could have talked to him. I could have talked to him. Hey, James, come on. Let's talk about this global heating thing. But can we say that of the Clinton administration? Can we say that of Hillary? She ran for president, right? No. Can we say that of Barack Obama or Trump 1 or Trump 2? No, not a chance. I think I'm talking about emperors here now, okay? I think Joe Biden tried. I think he surrounded himself with smart people who kind of got it. And he tried. I mean, he didn't understand, but his advisors do. And that's what happens a lot in these administrations. It's not really the figurehead who got elected and campaigned and is now president or vice president. It's the people they surround themselves with. So Joe Biden had good enough sense of the problem that he surrounded himself with people who were conversant in the subject of global heating. And they did some things. And I think it was really weak, but they did some things. So things, right? We'll take our things. If we can get things, we'll get things. We'll take it. And Trump, of course, immediately dismantled all that. So I think that even though Biden tried to do something, the thing he did not do, and this is what makes him a mad emperor, is that he did not warn the American people of what was coming. He just very quietly did some stuff kind of on the sly, right? He called it his Inflation Adjustment Act or something like that. But it had all this global heating, climate change stuff in it. But it was all about inflation, right? And it's like, really? Why don't you just call it what it is and just have the inflation be secondary? Oh, and by the way, after we tackle climate change, global heating, and deal with physics, then we're going to throw in some economic stuff to kind of make you people feel better about yourself, right? So we're going to tackle the science, and then we're going to throw in some economic measures to sort of offset that a little bit, right? He could have done that, but he turned it around. And so this makes him a mad emperor. Joe Biden was mad. He's like Caligula. He's fighting the sea with swords, right? Wading out into the water, fighting the ocean with swords, and then declaring victory. And, that's whatever. That's madness, okay? So he didn't do the thing. He did something like the thing. And then, of course, Trump came along and swept it all out. The thing he could have done and should have done, and if he was like a European, he would have done. And that is to grab the science by the horns and say, all right, we're going to grapple with this. We're going to wrestle with this. This thing is not called climate change. It's called global heating. It's physics, okay? You know what physics is? Okay, sit yourself down. I'm Joe Biden. I'm going to explain some physics to you. And if someone had taught Joe Biden about physics, even though he's 80,000 years old, he probably could have repeated it, right? Or maybe he could have sat down and said, I can't really talk to you about physics, America, but I've got my trusted advisor here. It could be Bill Nye, right? It could have been David Suzuki. It could have been a lot of people. Here, he's sitting down across from me, and we're going to have a private, well, not private, we're going to have a personal talk about global heating, climate change, and the science about this, and we're going to help educate America, and then we're going to pass some legislation. He could have done that, but he didn't. He did something very political. And then he called it the Inflation Adjustment Act or whatever he called it. So this is bullshit, right? This is just mad emperor hacking at the sea with bronze swords. It's just bullshit. Whatever. This is why Rome fell. This is why we are going to fall. Because we have this bullshit relationship with science. It's just bullshit. I don't know what to tell you. It's a clown act. We're having a clown act, and we've been having a clown act since Bill Clinton, even though Bill Clinton was a smart guy. We're having a clown act. Of course, his vice president was Al Gore. We all know who he is. So we're having now just clowns. It's all clowns. It's all a circus act. And America is going to destroy itself the same way that Rome did. And so what? We never did anything anyway, except all the wrong things. And, the Europeans won't be able to save themselves. Because without us, they can't do it. And they don't need Russia. Russia is now a backward medieval state. And we can kind of ignore them. Their oil infrastructure is rapidly going offline, so that's going to leave a mark. China, they're rapidly going offline. They're imploding in a massive way. This shit going down in China is crazy scary. We'll find out in a few months how that resolves itself. And of course, China is dealing with massive floods, massive typhoons. It's apocalyptic over there. I mean, seriously, I don't know what those people are going to do. I just don't know. So between China and Europe being completely self-involved and not able to, do anything for the world, and the U.S. refusing to, and the U.S. is basically just a failed empire and a clown act, like the end of the Roman Empire. Fine, I'm okay with that. Then we're not going to turn the corner. But Europe gets to go first, possibly China. What's happening in China is kind of crazy. I mean, seriously. Yeah. China's in big trouble. But Europe gets to go first. And they will. They will go down. They will go down hard. And they know they are. They will tell you. If you watch their news media, they will say, yeah, this is bad. We don't have a solution. We don't even know where to start. And they will tell you that. Because they have a working relationship with technology and science. And we don't. Here in America, we do not. What is it? 60% of Americans think the earth is 6,000 years old according to the Bible? Or something like that. It's so sad. It's funny that Americans are like this. Well, Americans are like that. So we have no working relationship with the truth. Well, we can quote biblical scripture all day long, but climate change, physics, reality, gravity, no, not so much. Not so much. Can't do it. So that's it. That's it for Europe. They're done. I don't know what to tell them. They can't save themselves. If I could think of a way that the Europeans can save themselves, I would say it right here. I mean, they wouldn't be listening, of course, but I'm just telling you intellectually, just to be a purist here. If I could think of a way that Europe could save themselves, I can't. They can't do it. They just can't do it. They have nowhere to go. They can't leave Europe. The Europeans can't leave Europe. Where are they going to go? Russia? America? Oh, America. Yeah, now that's funny. Now, the wealthy in Europe could leave Europe, but the wealthy in Russia can leave Russia. The wealthy can always leave, but that's not a very large part of the population. That's like, what, 1/10 of 1% of the population could come to the U.S. and bring their billions of dollars. Oh, Donald Trump, never one to let a deal go by, is selling $5 million gold cards to anyone who wants to enter the U.S. with money. So you don't have to stand in line. You don't even have to have a visa. You can be an actual criminal, I guess. I don't think they do any background check. If you can afford, wherever you are, if you can afford $5 million, you buy the gold card, you can come into the U.S. And if anyone like ICE, or immigration or the customs or anybody stops you at the border, you're getting off the plane, you're coming in, just flash your gold card. It's got Donald Trump's big fat face on it, as far as I know, and that says $5 million changed hands, and Donald Trump will back you 100%. That's what that means. You buy your way into America with a $5 million gold card, courtesy of Donald Trump. And as far as I know, he pockets the $5 million. He's the president, right? He's the one who says, "Hey, this guy's good. He's my buddy." Yeah, you don't bother him. I don't care what his story is. I've got the money. I got the receipts right here. He's got the gold card, and it's got his name on it. And I don't care what his skin color is. He's worth $5 million, and of course, later on he'll get another $5 million. And this is a shakedown, right? This is a mafia shakedown. This is protection. This is a protection racket. It's not like you buy this card once with your $5 million, and then you walk into the U.S. and set yourself up in your new penthouse in Seattle and Oregon. No. Yeah, you can be European and you can escape the heating in Europe and in the UK and France and Spain and all those other countries, and you can escape all that. And you can buy your $5 million gold card with Donald Trump's fat face on it, smirking at you, because he knows that smirking son of a bitch, he's going to get another $5 million from you anytime he wants. Oh, and you're going to have to give it to him personally, because he's running the military and the ICE and all his other National Guard and all those other goons, right? He'll just goon your ass. He'll just send the goons, and they'll drag you out of your penthouse in Seattle, and they'll drag you out of the front yard, and they'll beat you with a rubber hose, and they'll send you to Gitmo, and it cost you $5 million. Anytime Donald Trump wants a quick $5 million. Yeah, it's a shakedown. What'd you expect from a con man? But for these people, it might be worth it. Donald wants another $5 million? For fuck's sake. All right. Send him something on Venmo. All right? That's how it's going to work. Send him some Bitcoin. He has Bitcoin wallet, doesn't he? Send him some Bitcoin. Send him $5 million in Bitcoin. So some of the Europeans will be able to escape basically the end of Europe. But what will not escape the end of Europe is the Renaissance and the respect for science and the respect for truth and freedom and the respect for peace and the Nobel Committee, right? Who's in where? Where are they? Norway? Where's the Nobel Committee? Sweden? Switzerland? I don't even know where the Nobel Committee is. The Nobel Committee will have to run away from Europe. And will they give Donald Trump a Nobel Prize for individual lifetime achievement, some other consolation toddler prize? So he'll let them in the country? Maybe. Maybe the Nobel Committee will give Donald Trump a peace prize, an honorary special Donald Trump issue peace prize, just to get out of Europe. Maybe. What else? They could give Donald Trump a knighthood in England. And then the lords and ladies in England could escape to the U.S. because they gave Donald Trump a knighthood. Or maybe they'd have to give him as many knighthoods as they need people to leave. So if there's 200 lords and ladies need to leave England on the quick, they need to give Donald Trump 200 knighthoods. Maybe they need to give him their holdings in England so he can be Earl of Essex and Lord of Wessex and Baron of South something and Earl of something else and Laird of Scotland and the Loch Ness Monster, and then they can give him all these awards, and then he'll let them in the country, right? That's how this works. That's how it works at the end of the empire. You've got a mad emperor. And you're going to have to get, and if you're a Scottish guy and you want to come to America to escape the heat in Scotland and the lack of food, you're going to have to give him the Loch Ness and rename the monster after him. That's what you're going to have to do. So will they escape Europe? If they do that, I guess they might. Because it's all madness from now on. Only the Europeans ever embraced science. Only the English, the French, the Germans, the Italians, the Russians, right? And there's more. I'm sorry. I'm sliding the other countries, but Sweden and Norway and Switzerland and Denmark, they all had names that in the 1700s, the 1800s, the early 1900s, they were doing the science. America was doing what? 13 colonies? I mean, come on. Well, we had Benjamin Franklin. Yay. We had Benjamin Franklin. Awesome. Awesome for us. We had Benjamin Franklin. And they had everybody else. And they are the last bastion of science and truth about the world. And they are going to go down. And that'll be that. And humanity will no longer have a champion, a spokesperson, a spokes region for science and truth and technology and fairness and freedom. We won't. The world won't. Because that's not going to come out of Russia. That's not going to come out of China. It's not going to come out of the U.S. It's not going to come out of Africa. It's not going to come out of South America. That's entire regions. I realize those are not countries. There's no country in South America that's going to champion the cause of science and truth and liberty. There's no part of Africa that's going to champion any of this. They will repudiate all of those things as fast as they can, especially if they can suck up to Donald Trump in the U.S., who long ago, in 1776, but in a country, packed full of slaves, repudiated all those things. Except they wrote a document that said, under God, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and blah, blah. Well, for white men, fine. They did that for white men. And that was it. That was the extent of their embracing of any part of the Renaissance, or science, or the scientific method, or data, or dealing with reality, or any of it. That was the last time the U.S. ever gave any lip service to these things. And it's all been downhill ever since for us. Until now, we have mad emperors. And I'm including Joe Biden and Barack Obama. So that's it. The loss of Europe is going to leave a mark. This is going to really hurt. It's going to damage our ability to fight this fight. And our possibilities were pretty grim in the beginning. And they just got a lot worse. A lot worse. So I guess we'll see what happens. I want to do another video. I may do it tonight about this cold wave that's coming. And that video is basically saying there's a cold wave coming for the U.S. It's going to break all records a week after the hot wave broke all heat records. So what do you want to call this? Oh, I know. It's all global heating. And I'm going to make a case of why that's the case. So that, I guess I'm shouldering the load now, right? I guess I'm the only one shouldering the load, trying to make up for the fact that the U.S. is now a failed state. And we have abandoned all of our long-term Western cultural affinity for science and having a relationship with reality. So I'm shouldering the burden. Here I am, carrying the whole thing on my shoulders. Wow, la-di-da. Buy my book. All right. Reinforce the message. Is it in the description? I think I put something in the description linking to the book. Buy it. Just buy it. You don't even have to read it. Buy it and give it to somebody who you don't like. Buy it and give it to some MAGA idiot. Say, here's something about Trumpism. Read it. And even if they get into the first two paragraphs, they're going to walk away with with a headache, okay? The first 2 paragraphs will give them a fucking headache. And I'm all about giving people fucking headaches at this point, okay? Buy the book. Read it. I'm all in it, okay? You came on here to get a headache. Buy the book and get a headache, okay? Anyway. I'm frustrated, but more than that, I'm scared. More than being frustrated, I'm scared. Running out of time. Running out of time. Don't die.